Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Jolene Erlacher and I'm so excited to share with you today some tips and strategies for engaging students in online learning. This topic has become more relevant than ever before, and I hope to just share a few really simple things that I have found helpful in my own experience teaching online that can really maximize your ability to connect with students and keep them motivated while teaching them in a virtual context. So my background really began in elementary education over 2 decades ago, and since then I've worked with students of all ages. Right now I currently teach primarily in higher education, but my experience in education over the years has really given me insight into how things have changed, how students have changed, and led me to do a lot of research on generational trends and educational trends. So I now do also a lot of training and speaking on how do we engage what I'm going to refer to today as Gen Z students, those born after 1996. So really most of our students now from elementary through high school are Gen Z students, and some of the unique dynamics that we're facing as we're engaging them. So I'll throw in some tidbits from my generational research as well as just strategies from teaching in an online context for about 10 years now. So these are just things that have helped me and that have been part of feedback I've received over the years from different students that have really made a significant difference. So tip number one that I want to talk about today is the importance of pushing important information to students. You know, sometimes in education and in the workplace, we tend to think, you know, if I've communicated it once or it's posted somewhere, or it's in, a document that has been shared with you, we should know that information. The reality is that every day today we're getting so much information. A lot of research shows that we're producing as much data every year as was previously created in all of the history prior to the information age. So there's so much information being created today and coming at students that Gen Z students are expert skimmers. They just skim for what's relevant to them right now in the moment. As a result, we need to make sure we're pushing or notifying them of the information that's important to us. This is just a reality because they're used to getting notifications for everything. And so while we want to teach them to be responsible, to manage their time, to know where to look for information, we also need to make sure that we're kind of meeting them where they're at and pushing information to them that's needed. I like to make sure that I am doing this in a variety of ways. I like to post announcements or send emails at the beginning of each week, each new module, or each day, really delineating what is coming up, what they need to focus on, what I want them to be focusing on. The first week or two, this is especially critical, especially if your course has kind of a rhythm or a flow to it. That first week or two, getting them really used to the flow or the rhythm, the pattern of your course will be critical. I also like to do this if I'm introducing a new type of an assignment or if there's something that is unique that's maybe outside of the regular pattern or flow of the course, just to make sure that they've caught it, that there's a change or something different, a new type of assignment coming up. The other thing that can be critical is to really review who's engaging and who's disengaged. So, you know, most LMSs allow us to see when people are logging in, how much time they're spending in the course, what pages they're viewing, those types of things. So as you are going through your course, it's helpful to just periodically look at that information and to just see what students are spending a lot of time, what students aren't, and then reaching out and engaging those students who might be more disengaged, who are not spending as much time on the course pages where we want them, and making sure there's not something we can do to support them, that they're not, having some sort of issue accessing the information or finding it. So just really reaching out to them intentionally. So tip number one, push information to students. Tip number two, be present and engaged. I am an extrovert and I really like to be with people. And so I like to be able to feed off of the energy of my students when I'm in a classroom. Like I said, I've been teaching online for about 10 years now. And one of the difficult transitions for me has been, how do I really connect with and show my students that I'm present and engaged in this virtual context? So here are some things that I have found helpful. Let students know that you're present and engaged. So check in regularly with the class, like post on forums, comment on the discussion boards, follow up on things that you're seeing them post, or like I said earlier, if you're seeing them disengaged, when you reach out to them, then they know that you're present and you're engaging. So do as many little things as you can to show that you are there, you are online, and you are engaging with what they're posting, sharing, and doing in that virtual context. Make specific comments on assignments. So when students are, turning in an assignment and they're maybe talking about something that's going on at home or a hobby that they have, I try to really make sure that I'm commenting on that specifically so that they know I care about them as a person. I'm interested in what's happening, because if they were sharing that in class, I would probably follow up, with a comment. If they made a course presentation or I was handing them a paperback or something of that nature, I might make those comments. So I want to make sure I'm making those really specific, individualized comments as I'm providing feedback. You can do this also just in lectures or in online announcements that you're posting, maybe a little virtual update. You can reference things that students have said in their papers or in their forums or in a class discussion. And again, this shows I'm really engaging and paying attention to what you're doing, what you're submitting. I'm here, I'm present. Okay, tip number 3, be personable and authentic. We know that with younger generations, one of the most important things to them is to feel like the leaders around them, people that they look up to, are trustworthy, that they're authentic, that they are a people of integrity, that they're vulnerable, that they know who they are as a person. This is really, really important. No longer do students give respect based on title, position, experience, but they give respect based out of relationship. If they feel like you're someone who they can trust and you care about them authentically as people, then we earn their trust. So the way that authority functions today with this younger generation is very, very different than it was in the past. As a result, we have to be authentic and transparent, personable. And in the online context, this requires a little more intentionality. We kind of have to, I almost like to say, we have to, put it on hyperdrive where I'm really, really expressing my personality more so than I would have to do in person. Be sure you've made some videos or you're doing some live discussions, especially early on in the course. I really like to make sure that my orientation is in person or it's a video where students immediately get to see my facial expressions, get to hear my tone, get to see me explain things so they feel like they can connect with me. Really let your personality shine through in those videos as well as in posts and in comments. Show who you are through just, the way that you respond to students. Instead of just saying, good job, maybe say, I really like this because, and let, some of your own interests come through so they feel like they can really connect with you as a person. Share some fun personal facts and stories on occasion. Crack jokes. The other day I was even on a call. I was facilitating a virtual discussion with a group of students. And, one of the students kind of teased me and I teased them back. And it was fun. All the students were laughing because it created the sense of I'm a person. I have a sense of humor. We can kind of crack jokes even as we're focusing on the material that we need to learn. Use emojis on occasion. Now, I have a degree in English as well as 2 degrees in education, and I sometimes cringe at the writing abilities of Gen Z because they tend to write like they text. So sometimes their writing is not as professional or academic as we would want it to be. They often use a lot of emojis, which we want to teach them is not necessarily appropriate in a professional email or a professional academic paper. However, occasional emojis as we're responding in forums or in comments can be okay, because young people today communicate via images. Images have a ton of meaning to them. And so more than text, we have a generation that communicates in images. And while we still want to teach them how to communicate via text, using some images can help our communication be more effective. And then really respond with empathy to student requests. When we find out that something's going on in a student's life, be sure that we are communicating back that we care, that we're concerned, that we're available to help. Be willing to maybe, make some accommodations as needed if a student's going through a difficult family situation or whatnot. Just showing that you're human and that you're having a human response to any difficulties they're facing can be really, really valuable. Okay, tip number 4, connect individually. Gen Z students are the most individualistic generation that we've seen in the history of this country. They are used to being able to personalize everything, decide what feels right to them, decide what their truth is, which is just part of the whole cultural arena that young people are growing up in today, where the highest moral value is tolerance and really accepting people as they choose to identify themselves. And so this individuality really increases the value of us as teachers viewing them as individuals and connecting with them individually. So learning names, their backgrounds, their interests can be really, really important. Things like an introduction forum or some place where they kind of talk about themselves a little bit can really be helpful as a teacher, having that to reference when you're teaching, multiple classes of students, say in high school or something. Just having somewhere where you have noted who the different students are and what their interests are can be really helpful. Know some specifics about each student and reference these as applicable. I even like to share resources with students. If I come across something like, let's say I have a student who's, passionate about professional soccer, if I find an article on professional soccer, maybe I even email it to them or share it with them via messaging and just say, hey, saw this and thought of you, was thinking maybe you'd be interested in it. What are your thoughts? Just something to show that I know something about them and I care about them individually. Depending on your age group, making some office hours available or being available to answer questions can be helpful, especially when I'm teaching older students. I just use a Calendly scheduling app so that I can just say, hey, here, if you want to connect with me individually about an assignment coming up, you can schedule a little 15-minute appointment with me and we can jump on and chat about that. And then responding promptly to emails or messages or grading assignments can be really, really helpful. Students today are used to instantaneous feedback, right? If someone takes more than 5 minutes to respond to a text message, it feels like a long time to them. So just responding promptly to emails and messages. I communicate expectations up front. I let them know I'm going to communicate within 24 hours. So if you don't hear from me within 4 hours, don't worry. I'm going to respond within 24 hours. And if I'm not going to be available to respond within 24 hours, let's say I'm on vacation or something's come up, I will let you know. So I will make an announcement so my students know I'm not available. Typically, I respond much quicker than that, usually within an hour or two. But I just like to give them that expectation. Tip number 5, what we find with Gen Z students is that their motivation increases immensely when they have some choice in what they're doing. They live in a time and a place where they have so many choices. They get to create their own social media profiles. They can go, to the store and customize every purchase that they make. They can order things online. They can customize their avatars on their video games. They have so much choice. They can choose the movie they want to watch on Netflix when they want to watch it. They don't have to wait for the network to post the schedule. As a result, having some choice in their assignments can really increase their motivation. So I like to, when possible, Allow for different assignments that account for different personalities and learning styles. For example, if I'm doing an online written forum, I might also provide the option of a virtual discussion. So students could choose to do the online written forum, or they could choose to jump on a virtual discussion, say on Zoom or something, and actually discuss the same questions in person. That way, if I have an extrovert who's a verbal processor, they're going to prefer the virtual discussion. My introverted, thoughtful processor who's going to take a lot more time to internally process something is going to have the option to just do that and read what they want to write before they actually hit post. I also like to provide options for assignment submission. So for example, I want all my students to be writing because I like English, but I know that some students are better at communicating verbally and not in written form. So on occasion, I will let students have the option of recording a presentation and posting it, or writing a paper. So they can or they could create a slide presentation, or they could create, some other type of graphic illustration of whatever the topic might be. So when possible, allowing some of those options can be really, really beneficial. Also, the opportunity to propose alternate assignments. So if students have an idea, let's say we're doing some sort of project, they have an idea for a different type of project or altering the project slightly to be more in line with their interest, I will allow them to propose something and possibly would approve that if it still meets the guidelines of the course or the assignment. Okay, tip number 6. I hope we're doing well, and hopefully this is helpful information as you're thinking through your own context and courses. Tip number 6, encourage student ownership. So the more students can feel ownership, this kind of goes in line with the student choice. The more they're going to have to focus in and not get distracted but remain engaged. So we sometimes find that with Gen Z students, they would prefer a lecture. Why? Because with a lecture, they can sit and text their friends while they're listening to the lecture, even if it's a video lecture. However, if they have to take responsibility for learning the information and sharing it via a presentation, or reviewing each other's assignments or research, or doing a group project, then they have to remain engaged. So one example would even be, this week I have a course that's doing research papers. So instead of everybody just submitting their research paper to me, I'm having them share their research paper in peer groups. They're having to give peer reviews of each other's research paper, and then they have to report in the online forum something they learned from their classmates' research projects. So this way, they're not even just writing the paper and submitting it, they're having to engage with it, evaluate each other's work, and share things that they're learning about each other from each other's work. So it just adds a level of student ownership where they have to take some ownership for even educating each other or providing feedback to each other. And I find this can really, really improve student engagement. Tip number 7. I think this one has been most essential for me in my own adapting to the ever-changing education methodologies that are out there, especially with technology, the changing needs of students, all these different tools that we have. I literally don't know how I would design courses without this, getting feedback from students. Now, of course, if you have elementary age students, this could be more difficult, but with middle school or high school students, this is very, very, very valuable. I will often do a mid-course feedback survey or form and simply ask what is working, what is not, what would improve your learning experience. This is so insightful because I can design a course thinking this is the best design and it's the most effective way of presenting this information. But if students are not engaging it, if it's not helping them, then it's not effective. So really getting this honest feedback, and students so appreciate being able to give their input and feel like the teacher's going to listen to their input. And then what I find especially helpful is making a change or responding to that feedback. Whenever possible, I try to make at least one change in the course based on student feedback. Because again, it shows them that I am engaged, that I care about their experience. It shows I'm willing to listen to them, that I'm hearing them. So when I can come back and say to students, hey, we're going to make this change based on the feedback that you gave me in the course, I feel like it so increases their engagement because they're like, hey, I get a say in what's happening. Or if you're not able to make a change, even just responding to the feedback and saying, I really appreciate what you've said. I understand why this would, maybe improve your learning experience. Here's the reasons why I can't change it. Here's what I'm trying to accomplish with the way we've designed it. So just whatever way it is, communicating to students that you are listening to them, that you care about their experience. And then, of course, do an end of course evaluation. And almost every course that I teach, I tweak or change things for the next iteration based on the feedback from students in the previous course. So these end of course evaluations are invaluable as well. Tip number 8, learn from colleagues. So there's always another teacher who is doing something new or innovative better than you are. So one of the things I've really struggled with over the years is how to facilitate peer reviews, how to set those up on different LMSs. I've taught for 4 different universities and used 4 different LMSs. And so, sometimes there's a tool in an LMS that I just haven't discovered yet, or an LMS doesn't have a tool that another one has that I really want to use. So just talking with other instructors in my program or in my department about what's working with the students at our school, or in using the particular LMS that our school is using, can be incredibly helpful. Take a course. I'm an instructor for Eduspire, and I've taken a couple of different courses through Eduspire myself because other Eduspire instructors are much better at things, certain things, than I am. And so find a way to take some courses that are really going to help you grow in your ability to engage students online, use different tools, apply different strategies, etc. Something else that I really like to do, and I've done this with a couple of different instructors, is just ask to shadow their course. So to be added to their course as a non-editing teacher or just a guest, just so that I can see how they've designed their course. Even this summer, I'm teaching another instructor's course. I'm filling in for them, and just using their course the way they designed it has really taught me a lot of given me a lot of ideas and taught me some things that I will be using in other courses that I teach. And then just really forcing myself to try a new tool or approach regularly. A lot of times I'll still go back to the way that I was doing something, but often I will find that students like the new tool or they like the change and I can adapt it, or maybe I like it better. It works more effectively. So just find some new tools, try them out, always be learning. Today, we know that education is constantly changing, constantly adapting. And so the more that we can just constantly be positioning ourselves as learners with technology and different strategies and student trends, it can really help us be effective in engaging students. And then probably one of my favorite things about teaching online is just leveraging the expertise of other people, which is so much easier to do than in the classroom. Of course, now in the classroom we can show videos right there in the classroom, but in an online environment it's so easy to just pull in a Khan Academy video, a Brain Pop Junior video, TED Ed, just whatever videos, other expertises, or even to bring in and interview an expert who lives across the country. I could do that. I can bring them in and, record. We can do a little interview and record them, or they can jump into a session with my students and we can discuss something. So just even leveraging the fact that virtual context allows us to pull in other expertise. It allows us to travel the world in essence. And so just making sure we're really utilizing that can be important. And then we're finding that more and more lectures or explanatory videos should be kept to under 10 minutes. That really students learn best if they can get information in short snippets. So if, let's say you have a 40-minute lecture or instruction that you give on a particular topic, rather than recording a 30 or 40-minute video, it might be helpful to do it in 3 or 4 chunks that are under 10 minutes to just give the students these bite-sized pieces of information that they can really digest in a little bit shorter snippets. So these are my 9 tips for engaging students online. Even if these are not all relevant to your particular teaching context, I really encourage you to just pick 1 or 2 to just think about how could I do that in my own LMS with my group of students, depending on their age and your subject matter. What would this look like to be able to just engage students in this way? I love this quote by Liz Kolb. She says, technology integration is only as good as the instructional practices used within and around the tool. I think this is really, really important. Sometimes we feel like the more we use technology, the better our instruction is going to be. And now, as many of us are using technology like never before, it can be overwhelming because we're having to use technology that we haven't had to really use in the past or use in the same way that we're using it now. I just really encourage you to think through the instructional practices that are behind how you're leveraging your online tools so that the instructional practices really meet the desired learning outcomes that you have for your students. The last thing I'm just going to share quickly is just we found that Gen Z students, which is the cohort of students that are right now being engaged in online learning in really elementary school through college, is that they have some unique characteristics, traits, and things that they're looking for in their teachers. And some of the things that really help as a person, for students to engage with you as a person, as a teacher, to respect you and to want to learn from you, are the following. Number 1, cultivate a relationship. A relationship is the most important thing we can do to engage Gen Z students, whether that's online or in the classroom. They want to know that we care about them, that we see them as individuals, and that we're responding to their needs with empathy. The second thing that I kind of already talked about is to be authentic and transparent, to answer the whys. Like I said when I was talking about getting feedback, explain the whys behind the course, behind the subject matter, behind the course design, so that they feel like you're not just doing this because it's easy or it's the way it's always been done, but there's a reason behind why we do it. Connect it to real life experience as much as possible. Students today have so much information, so many things calling for their attention, that they want to know if I'm going to invest in something, including education, it is applicable, relevant to my life, and worth the investment. This is something that's really important. Communicate belief. When students have mentors or teachers who communicate that they believe in them, that they see the potential in them, that can even say, hey, this is something you're really, really good at, and I can see you succeeding in the future. This goes a long way towards students wanting to engage with what that leader, teacher, mentor says. Teach like a mentor, not just lecturing, but asking questions, engaging in conversation and communication with some back and forth. And that's, there's many tools that we can use to accomplish that mentoring type of feel, even in a virtual context. I've talked about some of them here today. Don't be afraid to challenge students with difficult assignments. And in doing so, communicate belief. Often students today are afraid of failure. So some of the things that we can do is encourage students to try something that's difficult. Create a space where they have some freedom to fail and to learn and to grow, and communicate that you believe in them and you're going to coach them and help them think through. You're going to mentor them in what that experience has taught them and how they can grow and how that's going to help them in the future. So these are some of the things that we're finding can be really, really helpful as we're engaging Gen Z students online as well as in person. So if you're interested in more regarding Gen Z students, I do teach a course through Eduspire. It's a 3-credit course for graduate or PD credit. Understanding today's students, you can learn more about that and many other courses that Eduspire offers at eduspire.org. If you're interested in reading more of my research, my blog, or my speaking topics, you can check out my personal website at leadingtomorrow.org. Thanks so much.
Eduspire is a leading provider of EdTech-focused PD and has partnered with Wilson College to provide more than 60 cutting-edge online graduate-level courses on a wide range of current and practical EdTech topics. Eduspire courses are taught by leading EdTech practitioners who are able to infuse courses with content that is immediately transferable to classroom instruction. Popular courses include Google Tools for Educators, Understanding Today's Students, Humanizing Online Learning, Blended and Flipped Classroom Environments, and many more. Device courses include Chromebooks, iPads, GoPro 3D printers, Sphero robots, 360-degree cameras, at no additional cost to classroom teachers. Unlike many colleges, Wilson College graduate-level courses have no additional fees, and scholarships are available from Eduspire for many courses to help offset out-of-pocket expenses for teachers who do not receive full reimbursement. Courses can be taken individually or as part of a 30-credit 100% online Master of Educational Technology degree program, which is uniquely flexible and customizable. An Instructional Technology Specialist certification is also available on a standalone basis or as part of the Master of Ed Tech degree. Explore what more than 12,000 course takers and more than 400 degree students have already discovered at eduspire.org. And take the next step in your PD journey.